Guys? I'm here with my second opinion video, and today's gonna be a fun one. It is welfare reform. Why I believe that welfare reform is good. First of all, here's just a little bit of a thought about why my philosophy on this is if we aren't giving people money and welfare, if we're having my kind of libertarian society where people can do what they want, we shouldn't have people give people money because they don't make the right decisions with their freedom that I would personally give to people. That is why I believe a welfare state isn't the most good for a free and fair society. First of all, the most obvious part of it, the cost. It costs a lot of money. It costs almost $1 billion. It costs around $1 billion each year for welfare. We have about 17 million families on this. It's going to cost you a lot of money. That's how it works in government. And we can't give up money. When you bring in debt, it forces you to raise taxes. Debt isn't good. Debt hurts. Debt brings down countries. You don't want to bring in debt. We already have enough of it. We can't just keep on spending endlessly to try to help stuff. That isn't how we solve problems in a society. We don't solve problems by throwing money at stuff. We solve problems by making good, making it free, making it easier for people to make the pie bigger. We don't solve problems by throwing $1 trillion at it. That is not how we can do it. That hurts your debt, and that isn't good for a country. Second off, it doesn't really help poverty. Why welfare? This is a Hill article. Why welfare's failing the poor and what to do today. It's not helping the poor. It hasn't really helped poverty. You know what helps poverty a lot more than welfare? Economic and technological advancement. Advancement helps the poor, not welfare. There, when someone makes a new technology that helps the poor have a better life, that's why the poor today live like a king in the 17th century or the 18th century. Not because we throw a bunch of money at them, but because of technological advancement. And we don't get technological advancement when it's cost so much. We have to tax the hell out of whoever created this, whoever makes the new thing that helps everyone out. We can't tax the living hell out of them. We can't tax the living crap out of them. That would not help someone want to create something. I wouldn't want to create something if I'm not getting a lot out of it. That is why communism doesn't work. But there's another reason why it really doesn't help poverty out. And we'll talk about it later. It stops people from moving up. This is another one that why poverty doesn't really change. It stops you from moving up. Because if I'm gonna move up, I could be taking less money because I'm not getting my welfare checks anymore. There's tons and tons and tons of people. I don't think you can't really get a statistical evidence for this, but there's tons of people I've seen and I've heard saying I'm not gonna move up in my business, in wages, in job, because you know what? It's gonna lose my welfare. I'm not gonna be making more money, and that's because the government gives you money for staying in a less paying job. You're not getting more money. A lot of people on welfare who aren't getting more money when they're going up jobs. And that really stops people from moving up the ladder of the society. It stops them from moving up a ring in our hierarchy. That's why our next point is very important. Improves the system of dependency The next two things are going to be used by a CNN article that I found really good. The Washington is building a culture of society is a quote from this article, and that is a quite a logical conclusion from this. It's a logical conclusion to assume that people are going to depend on a thing that the government gives you. That's what happens. We're people. We create dependency. We take advantage of stuff that are given to us. That is why people aren't moving up jobs because of this, because they depend on this welfare. That's also why people aren't looking for better jobs. They depend on here. You want a great example of this? Unemployment checks. Unemployment checks are great. Actually horrible. I don't know why I say great. They're horrible because people are out of a job for about 2 years right before their unemployment check um expires. They start looking for it because you know what? I live about a year and a half of just a life. I just live a year and a half of life because I'm getting enough money to survive. I don't need to really do much right now. I just live a free year and a half because the government is giving me my paycheck for a year and a half. Why wouldn't I? And that's the mentality a lot of people have been having, and that isn't very positive for our country. And finally, it is not a small minority of people that are having this. This goes back to cost. There's too much people on it. It goes back to every single point I've had here. Too much people are depending on welfare. It's not just a small minority like it was supposed to. It was supposed to be just a small minority of people are on welfare. It's not. It's about half of the country are on welfare. About 51% of people in this country do not pay income taxes. Almost about half of people in this country are really living a little bit off of the government. Not fully off the government, but still. They are still taking money from the government in some kind of way in welfare and other kinds of welfare like benefits. They're taking it in some kind of benefits and are hurting your taxpayer who have to pay for this. You're gonna have to pay for it one way when you have in a few years probably over half of these people aren't even paying income taxes. You're gonna have a very, 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 very bad society. It's good that actually, you know what? I want 0% of people paying income taxes, but I don't want 50% of people living off the government. I want 0% of people living off the government and 0% of people paying income taxes, and that is a perfect society in my eyes. So, bye. I will see you one day, probably Saturday or Sunday. I don't think I'm gonna post tomorrow, but goodbye.